faithfully conveying value by exploring great books worldwide. Hi, this is Sally with Book Talk. Today, I'm breaking down the book The Talent Illusion for you. The subtitle covers from deliberate practice and psychological strategies to cognitive traps. The author is Matthew Syed from Britain. It's a psychology book and an inspirational guide. In this book, Matthew debunks myths about geniuses and shares strategies for ordinary people to achieve greatness. So when you think of geniuses, who pops into your head? Legends like Wang Man and Zhang Yining in table tennis. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, who dominated art, physics, math, architecture, music, and medicine, or Hua Lobang, the math prodigy. Genius stories abound, and how we view them is usually consistent. With their so-called natural gifts and auras, have you ever thought geniuses are just born lucky? But is talent really all that crucial? Is it possible for regular folks like us to succeed? And if so, how do we make it happen? Don't worry, the book The Talent Illusion we're covering today has the answers. Matthew Syed, the author, is himself hailed as a genius, a dual elite in British sports and academia, with many titles. He's a British table tennis star, an Oxford graduate, and a well-known media figure. He competed in the Olympics twice for Britain, ruled British ping pong for almost 10 years, earning the genius title. Post-retirement, he taught himself to get into Oxford, studying PPE, politics, philosophy, and economics. Now a columnist for The Times, he's authored bestsellers including Black Box Thinking and The Talent Illusion. No matter how you look at it, he's a brilliant, genius-like individual. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Being seen as a genius by others, Matthew Syed actually grasps the paradox of the talent myth better. He claims he's no genius. It took family backing, coaching, and relentless training for over 10 years to make him a champ. Setbacks and pain were routine. So he grew curious about what makes a genius. What's the real story? That's why he penned The Talent Illusion. In the book, Matthew draws from his life loads of examples and psychology to shatter genius myths across domains, uncover the true keys to success, and share mental strategies to stay on top. We're all ordinary people, but with effort and the right practice methods, we can achieve greatness and excellence. Next, I'll break down the book's content into 3 parts for you. Part 1. What exactly is the secret to genius success? Part 2. How to stick with deliberate practice to the end. Part 3. How to prevent choking under pressure. Let's start with the first key point. What exactly is the secret to genius success? Matthew, drawing from his expertise in sports, debunks the talent myth and reveals that the real reason for genius success lies in acquired training. In sports, there are many geniuses like Ronaldo in soccer, Tiger Woods in golf, Roger Federer in tennis, and others, all praised for their natural gifts. For example, Federer is said to have the tennis gene. Ronaldo is hailed as born for soccer, and even some top athletes agree with this genius narrative. Like Ronaldo claims he was born with exceptional skills. But Matthew points out that genius success comes more from hard practice than innate talent. He tells a story about Desmond Douglas, a table tennis player. He plays table tennis with lightning speed and is called the Lightning Man of British ping pong. His signature move is pressing close to the table, using lightning speed to bounce the ball off his paddle and catch opponents off guard. Many thought Douglas was a natural at fast play, but that wasn't true. When he first joined the team, Douglas had the lowest reaction test scores. In other words, Douglas was inherently slow in reaction, and that's a fact. So how did he develop such terrifyingly fast shots? The answer is long, hard training. As a kid, Douglas loved playing, but the school's ping pong room was tiny. He and his classmates had to stand with their backs to the wall, pressed against the table, playing a fast-paced game to train speed and agility. Yeah. To hone his skills, he spent almost all his time practicing, putting in far more effort than others, proving that long-term hard work made him not talent. At this point, some might object, saying, if talent isn't key, why are Black athletes dominating sports? For instance, in track and field, Black athletes have long dominated awards fueling the enduring belief that they're naturally gifted runners. But the author says that's far from true. Genetic testing shows Black people don't have special gene sequences compared to other races. The dominance of Black athletes in track actually relates to acquired factors. British scholar Yannis Pitsalatis conducted field research in Kenya, known for producing long-distance champions. He found most Kenyan champions come from high-altitude areas and ran long distances to school as children, some over 20 kilometers daily. This high-altitude endurance running is exactly the secret training for elite runners. After hearing these stories, do you still believe talent determines success? The evidence shows that in any field, success comes down to acquired practice. The so-called genius is just an iceberg illusion. People only see the visible tip and mistake it for the cause of achievement. In reality, the iceberg's true height comes from its submerged base, the unseen years of relentless practice. Since the secret is long-term practice, how long exactly is long-term? The 10,000-hour rule states that mastery requires over 10,000 hours of practice, the genius law. This rule is a validated theory by Nobel economics laureate Herbert Simon. Simon himself was a polymath, a Nobel economist who was also a psychologist, political scientist, and law doctorate holder. Matthew cites the 10,000-hour rule in his book, emphasizing practice creates genius. But you might wonder, does 10,000 hours guarantee elite status? Many drivers have logged 10,000 plus hours, yet remain mediocre, and lifelong cooks may never master culinary arts. Why? Matthew explains practice requires both quantity and quality. Mindless repetition won't help. Only deliberate practice builds mastery. So, what exactly counts as deliberate practice? Matthew identifies 3 essential elements for deliberate practice. First, step out of your comfort zone. Deliberate practice isn't mindless repetition. It requires pushing your limits and improving with every session. This practice isn't easy or fun, but it's the fastest path to growth. Our bodies crave stability and cling to comfort zones, but staying too long leads to complacency. And deliberate practice forces you beyond comfort, actively pushing boundaries to become exceptional. Second, establish effective feedback to identify weaknesses and learn how to improve. Many practice hard for years without progress, precisely because they lack proper feedback. So how do you get effective feedback? Matthew says the best way is finding a good coach who designs personalized plans, gives immediate corrections, and builds professional skills. As a player, Matthew had such a coach, Chen Xinhua from China. Before Chen, Matthew's flashy, unpredictable shots looked impressive, but this style had a flaw. Mistakes were hard to diagnose. After taking over, Coach Chen made Matthew abandon showy techniques for a consistent forehand, a grueling process that made Matthew doubt the method. In the second picture, but after mastering it, he realized this new approach was brilliant. It let him instantly spot errors and make adjustments. Under Coach Chan's guidance, Matthew's skills transformed dramatically. The third element is focused training, a method that boosts efficiency and rapidly builds expertise. Matthew illustrates its effectiveness using cancer diagnosis and medicine. Medical students shadowing mentors get limited case exposure, leading to slow diagnostic improvement. But a digital library of correctly diagnosed tumors lets students study countless cases quickly with expert feedback, rapidly honing diagnostic skills. Similar methods include multi-ball ping-pong drills and futsal. This targeted approach is also called purposeful practice. Deliberate practice is training done in a state of intense mental focus, and its impact on people is tremendous. First, prolonged deliberate practice can alter physical structure and even reshape brain anatomy, boosting professional skills. Researchers found that brain regions controlling fingers in pianists and spatial navigation in taxi drivers are much larger than in average people. This isn't innate, it's the result of years of practice. The longer the practice time, the larger the corresponding hippocampal area in the brain becomes. Prolonged deliberate practice changes the brain's adaptability, encoding experiences into the central nervous system to build a personal knowledge repository. And as long as you're willing to put in the effort, you too can gain this knowledge base and become an industry elite. Second, deliberate practice can also enhance perceptual abilities, giving practitioners a professional X-ray vision. For instance, top athletes instantly decipher opponents' movement patterns. Chess masters see through board layouts at a glance, and experienced firefighters immediately know how to extinguish raging fires. They seem to have X-ray vision. In their professional domains, they quickly spot the most important elements amid complexity. The most crucial aspects, compared to them, untrained people are like the blind, looking but unable to discern anything. It might sound a bit mystical. Let me tell you a story and you'll get it. American psychologist Gary Klein interviewed a fire captain who once saved his whole team with a decisive call. At that time, someone reported a fire, saying the kitchen was ablaze. The fire captain arrived with his crew and saw the fire wasn't severe. However, after 2 attempts to put it out, the fire persisted, and new flames burst out behind them. The captain instantly sensed trouble and loudly ordered his team and family members to evacuate the house immediately. Wow, sure enough, as soon as they backed out, the kitchen floor collapsed. It turned out flames from the kitchen had dropped into the basement, invisible from above, but already an inferno below. Everyone narrowly escaped death. When asked how he knew something was wrong, the captain couldn't explain it clearly. He just said he had a dangerous intuition or sixth sense. After deep analysis, psychologist Klein concluded the captain's decisive action came from a deep perceptual system internalized into his subconscious. At the scene, he was precisely relying on this cognitive model to work. When a small kitchen fire couldn't be extinguished for a long time, and instead new flames appeared elsewhere, this cognitive model immediately triggered an emergency alarm, just like animals sensing danger from prey. The captain, with his rich experience, gained the ability to sense danger in fire scenes, and this ability comes from acquired training and life-or-death experiences forged in countless fires. This is what we call a professional with X-ray vision. Through prolonged, deliberate practice, their perceptual structure has been completely renewed, allowing their brain to quickly extract information and make judgments when problems arise. That concludes the first key point for you. So-called geniuses are all illusions. Their excellence depends on acquired effort, prolonged, deliberate practice, with its 3 essential factors: stepping out of the comfort zone, correcting errors, and focused training. Yeah. It's not hard to see that deliberate practice isn't easy. It's very demanding and requires strong belief as support. So how do we gain the belief and motivation to persist with deliberate practice long term and carry it through to the end? Matthew says that people acquire beliefs and goals in different ways. For some people, motivation doesn't need to be sought out. It comes to them on its own. Many have experienced this, being inspired by a random event or word, then starting to strive hard. Matthew himself fell into the pit of economics because of one news story, and he's been hooked ever since. Matthew loved playing table tennis since childhood and wasn't very enthusiastic about studying. But one day, at age 18, he saw in the news that the government was trying to control inflation, and he suddenly found it fascinating. How could such a powerful government not control prices? To find the answer, he began self-studying economics. Every day after playing, he'd dive into books enthusiastically until late at night, without parents nagging him, and he didn't find it boring or painful. After retiring, he self-studied to get into Oxford University to study economics. That one news story sparked his interest in learning and changed his attitude towards studying. You could say that moment of epiphany at age 18 opened the door to his long journey of excellence. Similar examples are common in life. A teacher's encouragement, a relative's mockery, or competition with classmates all can ignite our interest and fighting spirit. In psychology, this is called a spontaneous influence event. But what if it never happens? Then we can actively use positive psychological strategies to find connection-based motivation and ignite our drive. American psychologists conducted an experiment where Yale students solved unsolvable math problems after reading a report by a math genius. This math expert was fictional, with his birthday intentionally matching half the students' birthdays. Psychologists tested whether sharing a birthday with this genius, a random event, could boost students' motivation. The results stunned them. Birthday-matched students persisted 65% longer than others, showing more optimism and confidence. This tiny connection point, sharing a birthday, ignited their motivational response. Similar examples abound, like South Korea's Seo Ri-pak. In 1998, she won the LPGA championship. Many Korean girls then believed Koreans had innate golf talent and took up the sport. When Yindi Lee and Lang Lang won international awards, countless Chinese parents believed they too could send children to global music stages. Connection-based motivation isn't hard to find. With a positive attitude, you'll discover your domain. Beyond sustaining motivation, persisting with deliberate practice requires avoiding the genius myth trap. Believing in innate genius easily leads people astray or makes them quit midway. When succeeding, they credit intelligence rather than effort. When failing, they blame stupidity instead of analyzing mistakes. Consider this psychology study. 400 fifth graders randomly split into two groups for 2 test rounds. After an easy first round, one group was praised for high IQ. "You're so talented, so smart." The other group was praised for effort. "You must have worked really hard." Then came a harder second round test, challenging but within most students' capabilities. However, the test results showed a stark contrast. Kids praised for being smart mostly gave up halfway, making excuses like not being good at puzzles, while 90% of those praised for effort chose to face challenges head-on and ultimately succeeded. This experiment has been repeated in many places with identical outcomes. Evidence shows talent believers fear failure, while diligence believers embrace challenges and pursue lifelong growth. All right, that covers the book's second key point: mastering deliberate practice essentials, finding long-term motivation, avoiding talent myths, and persisting with practice. Now, let's discuss the third key point. After completing long-term deliberate practice and professionalizing your cognition, how do you avoid choking and even exceed expectations during critical performances? As the saying goes, the last mile is the longest. No one wants to fail at the finish line after all that effort. But in reality, anyone can choke. Forgetting lines in speeches, singing off key, or blanking out during exams are common. News of shooters missing final shots or soccer players botching penalty kicks also appear regularly. Matthew calls these situations choking. But why does it happen? Matthew explains it's a neurological glitch. Under extreme pressure, the brain shifts skills from the implicit system to the explicit system, causing performance failure. So what are explicit and implicit systems? The explicit system is consciously controlled memory, meaning you must think before acting, focusing only on the immediate next step, leaving no room for anything else. The implicit system is unconscious memory. What we call practice makes perfect. It becomes instinctive muscle memory, requiring no conscious control. Deliberate practice builds skills into the implicit system, while live performance requires adaptability and tactical thinking, the explicit systems domain. Thus, live performance needs both systems working together. Elite tennis players predict ball trajectories just from opponents' body posture. Chess masters instantly grasp entire board layouts and strategize because they seamlessly switch between both systems. But this switching can malfunction under extreme pressure. When our consciousness over-focuses on details, skills that should be controlled by the implicit system revert to the explicit system, resulting in clumsy movements, slow reactions, and performance breakdowns. So, how can we avoid choking during critical moments? The answer lies in positive psychological strategies. Discard self-doubt and anxiety. and cultivate unshakable confidence. Specifically, we'll use 3 psychological tactics. First tactic: harness the placebo effect, a psychological suggestion where positive self-belief generates powerful results. During War II, American field medics needed to operate on soldiers but had run out of anesthesia. Medics had nurses inject saline solution while telling soldiers it was anesthesia, producing the same calming effect. Studies show the placebo effect eases anxiety and boosts confidence in high-stakes situations, helping unleash skills built through deliberate practice. So how do we activate the placebo effect? Matthew says, believe in something. What you believe doesn't matter. Belief itself works. You might follow religion for divine confidence boosts. For instance, Olympic long jump champion Jonathan Edwards kept Latin fish cans in his bag, praying with Bible verses pre-competition. Boxing legend Muhammad Ali affirmed, Allah is with me through Muslim faith. How could I lose? You can also superstitiously trust objects, like wearing red during exams or Nike shoes with check marks to, motivate victory, or embrace rituals like Matthew's 3-step routine, deep relaxation, positive visualization, and affirmations for confidence. Self-praise like, I'm awesome, I'll win, triggers the placebo effect. Any positive self-suggestion generates mental power, transforming hard practice into peak performance. Second strategy, develop dual mindset. What's a dual mindset? It means holding unshakable confidence while accepting failure positively. Victory and defeat are both common in battle. Be mentally prepared to lose. When failing, quickly filter negativity to regain confidence and optimism. World-class tennis player Tim Henman faced his Waterloo in 2002, losing 0-3 to a Swedish opponent at the Australian Open. The blow was devastating. Many feared he'd collapse, but Henman quickly adjusted himself. He said, I'll view this loss positively and focus on improving my performance on the court. Soon after, he won the ATP World Tour Masters 1000 trophy, reclaiming glory. Success in any field requires this dual mindset. He mastered belief to quickly regain confidence, maximizing the placebo effect. Third, to sustain consistent performance, learn to overcome anticlimax emotions. Avoid complacency after partial success. What are anticlimax emotions? It's the emptiness felt after a dream comes true, a sudden relaxation. Matthew knows this well. After years of training, he finally defeated a formidable veteran in a match. After brief euphoria, he felt muscle weakness and emptiness. Shocked, he immediately adjusted his mindset and physical state to avoid affecting subsequent performance. Actually, anticlimax is an evolutionary warning system, reminding us not to settle, prepare for the next challenge. But emotional roller coasters sabotage live performance, so maintain equanimity. After achieving one goal, quickly refocus, set the next, and stabilize against anticlimax. All right, that concludes the book's third key point. Using psychological strategies like the placebo effect during performances coordinates explicit and implicit systems, prevents choking, unleashes potential, and leads to success. Well, genius is a beautiful myth. We all wish to be effortlessly exceptional, but this book reveals it's an illusion, offering profound encouragement to all ordinary people, including ourselves. It affirms deliberate practice, find strong belief, persist long-term, excel under pressure, and achieve genius-level results. That's all for our breakdown of the talent illusion. Study notes are below the audio. See you next time.